Winston Cup, Major League Stock Car Racing, NASCAR style. The most popular form of motorsports in the world for more than a decade now. The rich history of the National Association for Stock Car Auto Racing, NASCAR, stands as a tribute to William Henry Getty France, Big Bill, the sport's founding father. It was his visionary proposal during the rough and tumble days following World War II that led to the creation of the most professional motorsport sanctioning organization in existence. It all began on the sandy Florida beaches of Daytona in the late 40s. And now NASCAR's Winston Cup Series spans the nation, much to the delight of sellout crowds and national television audiences. The spectacle of Winston Cup racing unfolds week after week to showcase some of the most competitive side-by-side, bumper-to-bumper racing ever witnessed. And there have been some memorable and classic confrontations along the way. They didn't know what to expect when they came to Daytona International Speedway in 1959 for the inaugural Daytona 500. They only knew that the culmination of Bill France's dream would be unlike anything else they had ever experienced. A 2.5-mile tri-oval with turns banked 31 degrees. As the field filed down pit road, NASCAR Winston Cup Racing was about to enter a new era. The sights, the sounds, the speeds attacked the senses as convertibles, hardtops, and sedans thundered under the brilliant Florida sunshine. The first Daytona 500 ended as no one would have imagined. At breathtaking speed, 3 cars, those of Lee Petty, Johnny Beauchamp, and Joe Weatherly, took the checkered flag in a 3-abreast photo finish. The win was first awarded to Beauchamp, but photographs later revealed that Lee Petty in number 42 had inched out the victory. Beauchamp was relegated to second. Joe Weatherly, a lap down, finished 5th. 20 years later, the Daytona 500 once again found a place in history. The race had come down to a closing lap duel between Donnie Allison and Hoss Ellington's number 1 Chevrolet and Cale Yarborough and Junior Johnson's Oldsmobile. Richard Petty and Darrell Waltrip were running 3rd and 4th with A.J. Foyt back in 5th, trailing by half a lap. On the last lap, Allison led Yarborough, but then, on the long back chute, Cale made his move. He dropped low, and so did Allison, and both cars came together. The 2 drivers fought to keep control, yet neither willing to give ground. Finally, both are turned totally out of control and careen into the wall, entering turn 3. Sliding down the infield, less than a mile from the checkered flag, both cars came to a halt. That gave Richard Petty the chance he needed. With a clear track in front of him, Petty raced with a finish with Darrell Waltrip in hot pursuit, desperately trying to pass, but he couldn't do it. The Petty name once again goes down in the record books as the remarkable winner of the 20th annual edition of the Daytona 500. The long limousines roll into Daytona International Speedway on July 4th, 1984, bringing to the track a very special guest. As the fans gathered in the sun for an exciting day of racing, even they couldn't predict what would happen. It evolved that the Pepsi Firecracker 400 became another classic Daytona duel. This time, Cale Yarborough and Richard Petty were the combatants. The finish came 3 laps from the end of the race. Doug Heveron experienced a spectacular crash going into turn 1. He was all right, but it was now a race back to the yellow flag between Cale and Richard Petty. Yarborough made a textbook pass around Petty, entering turn 3, but Petty wouldn't give up, and down the front chute, with sheet metal rubbing, they crossed the finish line almost as one. But it was Petty who got there first. It was another thrilling Daytona win for stock car racing's king, and for the special guest, President Ronald Reagan. Petty's 200th career win, witnessed on site by the President of the United States. Many believe that fateful day in 1984 ranks as Daytona's most thrilling moment. Others say it happened in 1976. The setting was typical. A huge crowd had gathered to watch the world's fastest stock cars, driven by the world's greatest drivers in NASCAR's biggest spectacle. Richard Brooks, David Pearson, Buddy Baker, Dave Marcus, and pole sitter Ramo Stott out of Keokuk, Iowa, made up part of the 42-car starting field. When the green flag fell, it turned into a typical NASCAR Winston Cup war. Down the back chute, it looks like New York City at rush hour. There's 190-mile-per-hour gridlock at the head of the field. The action was fast and furious, but it wasn't long before attrition began to take its toll. Tom Williams in car 38. David Sisko up in a cloud of smoke that sends Salt Walther on a spinner. Skip Manning and Johnny Ray. '63, Terry Blivens once again in turn 2. When the smoke cleared, the race came down to a match between two of stock car racing's greatest competitors, David Pearson in the vaunted Wood Brothers Mercury and the King Richard Petty in his Dodge. The white flag, one more lap. The standing room only crowd erupts in a frenzy as Petty leads Pearson through turn 1 and 2 and out into the long back straightaway. And now Pearson unleashes the power in his 21 Mercury and screams by Petty. But with a record $343,000 up for grabs, Petty isn't about to give up. He moves back under Pearson, and out of turn 4, the volcano erupts. Spinning and crashing down the front straightaway, Petty slides to a stop just feet from the finish line. And he can't get the number 43 Dodge restarted. Pearson's battered machine is still running, and he limps by a stalled Richard Petty at 30 miles an hour to take the checkered flag and win his first Daytona 500. A phenomenal victory for David Pearson in a Daytona 500 many call the greatest ever run. Rubbing fenders and swapping paint has always been a trademark in the rough and tumble world of NASCAR Winston Cup racing. It was no different in 1987 in the special event called simply the Winston, an all-star race just for winners at the beautiful Charlotte Motor Speedway. And it had a new format which called for a 10-lap trophy dash to the finish. It was 10 of the most fiercely contested laps ever seen on any racetrack. Lap 1, Jeff Bodine and Bill Elliott make contact in the first turn. Bodine spins and Earnhardt seizes the chance to take the lead. Elliott recovers and gives chase. And oh, what a chase. It's a take-no-prisoners battle. Elliott presses Earnhardt through every turn of the racetrack, but Dale holds ground. Coming out of turn 4, the two come together again, and Earnhardt is into the grass. In a remarkable display of driving prowess, Earnhardt not only keeps control, but he holds on to the lead. Relentlessly, Elliott tries to get by Earnhardt. He tries the outside in turn 4, but both cars drift high. Terry Labonte moves alongside of Earnhardt, but again, Earnhardt will not surrender. Elliott's hopes for victory are deflated out of turn 2 as he cuts a tire down. Earnhardt continues to pace the field while Elliott has no choice but to go to the pits. With Labonte in tow, Earnhardt takes the victory. It's unquestionably the most exciting race in the brief history of the Winston and firmly establishes it as the crowd-pleasing event it was designed to be. Tight racing and close finishes have become synonymous with NASCAR and the Winston Cup circuit. It was once again evident in 1977 at the Alabama International Motor Speedway in Talladega, Alabama. A track with a reputation of speed and unpredictability. Both played a great role in the Winston 500, a race that's today considered one of the massive speedway's finest moments. You're in the car of Richard Brooks as the field comes up to speed. Drivers jockey for position as they move down. They're running 3 abreast. As they thunder around this 2.6-mile tri-oval, the field begins to feel the bite of NASCAR's largest superspeedway. A.J. Foyt blows an engine going into turn 3. Out of control at over 200 miles an hour, Foyt slides into turn 4 as the field scatters to avoid him. Pearson drops way down to the apron to get by Foyt as he finally comes to a rest. Turn 2 claims the number 18 Dodge of Joe Frisson. He comes to a stop in the middle of the track as a pack of cars tear onto him. Bobby Allison hits the dirt and is on the outer edge of control. Peter Knabb takes a long slider in turn 4. The last lap of the Winston 500 is tradition. It's a shootout. A quartet has to decide it all here. The white and green colors of a young and talented Darrell Waltrip lead the pack, with Alabama's own Donnie Allison running second, defending Winston Cup champion Cale Yarborough third, with the 1973 Winston Cup champion Benny Parsons running fourth as they come to the line for the white flag. Waltrip drops low in turn 1 as he tries to break away from the draft. But out of turn 2, they begin to reel Waltrip in. Donnie Allison goes high to pass Waltrip, loses. Now Yarborough comes up on the inside and goes by Allison. Cale moves to the outside of Waltrip. He's over the edge as his tires begin to smoke. Waltrip fights him off. Now Parsons drops underneath Yarborough. They slam together. Out of turn 4 again, Yarborough and Parsons put the wrap on each other for second. Darrell Waltrip pulls away. 3 cars side by side for second at the line as they go through the tri-oval. It'll be Darrell Waltrip winning his greatest race and nearly a dead heat for second between Yarborough and Parsons. It was a startling victory fashioned by a daring move by a great driver who's gone on to become one of NASCAR's true superstars. Darrell Waltrip is no stranger when it comes to last lap heroics. Darlington, 1979, and the running of the Rebel 500. All the stars of NASCAR are on hand. Bobby Allison, Ricky Rudd, Benny Parsons, Richard Petty, along with Waltrip and Richard Childress. Darlington is known as the track too tough to tame, but the field pulls out to see who can master the oldest of the superspeedways. The green flag waves and Waltrip makes his presence felt early as he takes command. Demands constant attention. No set of turns are alike as Jimmy Means in car 52 quickly finds out in turn 3. The late Al Holbert spins on the front chute. Heel Bonnet loses it in turn 2. But one of the strangest incidents occurred not on the track, but in the pits. David Pearson left his pit too early before the lug nuts were tightened, and the result, obvious. The race came down to a confrontation between Waltrip and Richard Petty. With 1 lap to go, Waltrip has his hands full. Petty makes his move down the back straightaway and takes the lead away. But Petty drifts high in 3, and Waltrip dives low to regain the lead. Down the front stretch, Petty looks for an opening, but Waltrip is not to be denied. Darrell Waltrip wins the Rebel 500. With wife Stevie looking on, Waltrip accepts the trophy for his first victory at Darlington as he etches into the record books one of the most glowing moments in Darlington's brilliant history. In 1985, more history was being made, and it started when Bill Elliott won the Daytona 500, the first leg in the Winston Million. Any driver who can win 3 of 4 major races on the Winston Cup circuit, the Daytona 500, the Winston 500, the Coca-Cola 600, and the Southern 500, receives a $1 million bonus from the R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company. When the Winston 500 at Alabama International Motor Speedway began, all eyes were focused on Bill Elliott. But trouble struck early. A puff of smoke from the number 9 Ford. A broken oil line sends Elliott out of competition and into the pits. As others took command, the crew worked furiously, trying to get Bill back into the race, and he was falling further behind. Work on Elliott's car was done, and he left the pits. His hopes seemed to have been crushed. But Elliott began one of the most stirring comebacks in Winston Cup history. In a race that saw only 2 caution flags for 8 laps, Elliott made up the lost laps under green and then chased down race leader Cale Yarborough. Going into turn 3, Elliott passed Yarborough for the lead as the crowd roared its approval. A late caution flag sent both drivers into the pits. Crews go to work on both machines. It was Yarborough first out of the pits, and when the green flag fell, again it was Yarborough in the lead. But Elliott was not to be denied. Again, he passed Cale in the 3rd turn, and he never relinquished the lead from that time on. Comfortably ahead, Elliott's amazing comeback was topped with a well-earned victory. As he drove into victory lane, he and everyone else knew he was just 1 victory away from claiming the $1 million Winston bonus in its first year of existence. On Labor Day of 1985, Elliott was again the focal point of attention. With 2 of the 3 wins he needed to earn the Winston Million, Elliott came to Darlington with this special chance to make motorsports history. Just to survive 500 miles at Darlington's a job, but to win requires a touch from Lady Luck. And Bill Elliott needed all the luck he could get. Dale Earnhardt, who held the measure of Elliott, was suddenly taken out of contention as Elliott just squeezes by on the inside. Then it was Cale Yarborough's turn as he surged past Elliott with an awesome display of power. Elliott tries to recapture the front spot, but the 2 leaders come together. Yarborough manhandles the board and keeps the number 1 spot. Elliott continues to keep the pressure on Yarborough. In turn 4, Yarborough's power steering fails in a plume of smoke, and once again, Elliott squeaks by, just missing Cale. Bill Elliott went on to capture the Southern 500, and the celebration was enormous. A jubilant crowd cheered as Elliott took a lap of honor. And the scene in Victory Lane was bedlam as kisses and hugs and Bill Elliott dollars showered the place. With this win, the smiling man from Dawsonville, Georgia, knew that he would forever be a part of Winston Cup history. A few of the great moments in NASCAR, a few of the milestones that measure the growth of the most successful sanctioning body in motorsports. And there are many others, beginning on February 15th, 1948, when the first NASCAR-sanctioned race was held on Daytona's old beach road course, to September 4th, 1950, and the superspeedway era was born, when the legendary Darlington Raceway staged the inaugural Southern 500. The magic single-season $100,000 barrier was cracked in 1963, when fearless Freddie Lorenzen, Ford's Golden Boy, won over $113,000. 1965, Darrell Derringer helped Goodyear develop the Interliner tires still used today. Buddy Baker became the first driver ever to tour a closed course at better than 200 miles an hour. Alabama International Motor Speedway, March 24th, 1970. The R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company and NASCAR joined forces to announce the Winston Cup Series in 1970, a move that actually opened the sport's doors to non-automotive sponsors. Richard Petty became stock car racing's first driving millionaire when he won his third Winston Cup title in 1971. The most historic changing of the guard in motorsports took place when NASCAR founder Bill France Sr. retired as president in 1972, turning over the controls to Bill France Jr. NASCAR celebrated its silver anniversary in 1973, a season that saw David Pearson, the legendary Silver Fox, win 11 of the 18 Winston Cup races he entered. Buddy Baker was the first driver in history to win a 500-mile race in less than 3 hours. It was Talladega, 1976. The race, 2 hours, 56 minutes, 37 seconds. Since 1976, NASCAR's Winston Cup Series has been the most popular form of motorsports in the world. Cale Yarborough was the first and only driver to win 3 consecutive Winston Cup titles, 1976, 77, and 78. In 1979, Richard Petty won his unprecedented 7th Winston Cup championship, but it was close, edging Darrell Waltrip by a scant 11 points. An impressive winning mark was established in 1985 when Dale Earnhardt, Darrell Waltrip, and Bill Elliott all won more than $1 million in one season. It is a rich history filled with color, with drama, excitement, and pride. Great moments from the past, to be sure, and there will be more to come. The Winston Cup Series has taken the legacy of Big Bill France and polished it to a diamond luster and protects it with crusader zeal. The sport today is filled with well-known superstars, and there's a wave of exciting new driving personalities poised for future greatness. Winston Cup Racing, the most popular in the world, and the best is yet to come. Follow the exciting story of stock car racing from the early days of NASCAR races on the sandy beaches of Daytona to the high bank turns of Talladega in a 90-minute home video. The history of NASCAR and the Winston Cup. To order your copy, send $19.95 plus 4 end flaps from 2 cartons of Winston cigarettes. Send them to NASCAR Historical Video, Post Office Box K, Daytona Beach, Florida, 32015. Include $2.25 for shipping and handling. The history of NASCAR and the Winston Cup. 90 minutes of action guaranteed to make you wish tomorrow was race day.